Welcome to Under the Radar Sports Talk. This is Bill Koch, and this is Under the Radar Sports Talk. We're here every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon on WVLP 103.1 FM, or we stream live at WVLP.org. As always, 2 hours of commercial-free and uninterrupted sports talk. We talk NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, and college sports. You can follow us on Twitter at UTR, on Twitter at UTR_sports_talk, or like us at UTR Facebook page, UTR Sports Talk. And wow, there is a lot of stuff going on. And the hardest thing is to try to figure out what to talk about. Like a lot of sports shows, you know, they're on every day of the week, and it's a little bit easier. So here we have to pick our spots. But I'm excited about today because I got two great guests, and one of my guests is coming back again, and we had him on for the WrestleMania recap of WrestleMania, and I wanted to have him back for the recap of SummerSlam. This guy knows his wrestling, I can tell you that, and he's got a show on Sunday nights, and he is the Metal Professor. Ken Luther, how you doing this morning, Ken?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me in. I'm sorry your great guest couldn't be here, but I'm happy to sit in his place.
Who's my? Oh, you are my great guest. Okay. And my other great guest, who also really surprised me last week, this guy, Mark Mahoney, is here, and he gave us a great preview last week of SummerSlam.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And he's back to talk about it with you, Ken. So you guys can go toe-to-toe here.
Okay.
All right, so to
Sounds
speak,
good.
right? Wrestling toe-to-toe. But before we begin, I want to cover a couple of housekeeping matters. The first housekeeping matter, tomorrow, we're having the Region Sports Cards and Collectibles Expo, Sunday, August 26th, at Villa Caesar Hall, 900 Eagle Ridge Drive in Cherryville, Indiana, from 10 a.m. to 3. This show is given by a friend of mine who runs it, Mitch LaRock of Forever Young Sports Cards, and there's going to be a ton of sports cards, lots of memorabilia, wax boxes, box breakers, autographs, comics, vintage toys, and collectibles. Turk Wendell will be signing autographs from 10:30 to 12:30. It's $20 an item. Paul Popovich will be signing autographs from 1 to 2, $10 for any item. Advance tickets at www.csac.biz or 708-837-9760. You can buy cards. You can sell cards. You can trade cards. It's just a great time. There's going to be a packed house there. I think there's going to be a lot of people there tomorrow. I think if the weather's bad, it's actually going to be better. I think there'll be more people, Mark, right? You think?
I would agree.
If the weather's bad, because nobody can sit out in the sun. So we're going to go. It's going to be a great time. I'm going to be there. I'm going to set up a tent and talk to a lot of people and interview some people, maybe go live on Facebook or something, so it's going to be a lot of fun. One other shout-out. This week, marked my 4-year anniversary of Under the Radar Sports Talk. If you have not noticed, I have never called this show my show. It's always been Under the Radar Sports Talk, and the show has never been mine. It's all about the great people who have been involved in this show. And with that, I want to first thank John King for putting me in touch with Greg Koch, the station manager, who thought a sports show would be a great idea. He recommended that I speak to Paul Schreiner for final approval, of course, which I did. And I was nervous, Ken, the first time I had to be interviewed by Paul Schreiner. A little bit more nervous than if I was on a job interview.
Yeah, he can be intimidating when he's sitting across you at the table.
Yeah, so I didn't bring my rap sheet with me. I left that one home, so that was good. But without the support, and that went well, the interview with Paul, and without the support of John, Greg, and Paul, UTR would have never been a reality. I want to thank the following members of WVLP for giving me support and positive feedback over the last 4 years. So let me name these guys here, and hopefully I don't miss any of them. Tony Ortega, Bill Moran, Christopher Papia, Joe Alessi, Brett Hill, Keith Friedland, Paul Urena, Jane Schreiner, Jane Sanders, Mr. Ken Luther, who's here today, Robert Ralph Feddersen and Terry Feddersen, and Mickey Camp, Valerie Steele, and John Kowalski. I also want to thank the following people who have given up their time on the weekend to talk sports with me over the last 4 years. I only try to put the greatest people possible, on this show, and I'm so happy I got great people that come on. Rucker Odom, Ruth Lavery, Marty Hemmersbach, Tim Fish, Jeff Withrow, Tony Politano, Dean Hemmersbach, Robert Hawk, Ryan Peck, Courtney Ann, Tierra Joy, Aldo Nardiello, Amanda Cody, Justin Brinkley, Christian Koch, Chad Lincoln, Zachary Collins, Zach Zaidman, Demetrius Clark, Greg Gantz, Eric Nesser, Frank Rivoli, Jack Summer, Jim Gross, Josh Goodwin, Josh Pelletier, Austin Hutchinson, Nick Likovich, Mitch LaRock, Jeff Mitchell, Nathan Kylander, and where's my bell? Ooh, is it around here? All right,
It's behind you.
Oh, it's behind me. Okay, and Mark Maloney. There you go.
Get the bell.
I didn't get the bell.
Rob Stanley and Troy Williams. Special thanks to Courtney Ann, my daughter, who came up with the name Under the Radar Sports Talk. Thanks to my son, Christian, who may not have the same passion for sports as me, but has given his time and encouragement for the show. My mom, Ann, who never misses a show, is my best critic. And by the way, she's a big Mark Maloney fan, my mother.
Oh, fantastic.
Right. Yeah,
well,
yeah.
thank you.
And lastly, my wife, who does not follow sports and had to put up with me over the last 30 years. And the funny thing about it is, I think if I was married to someone who likes sports, my house would be like my life would be a disaster because there wouldn't be anybody to do anything. We would just be sitting in front of the TV watching sports.
And it would be a mess with all the sports memorabilia.
Right. My whole life would be a mess, I think, really. So, all right, great. Thanks, everybody out there, and hopefully we'll keep this train rolling for another 4 years. Good willing, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so let's get down to let's get down to business here, right? So last Sunday, we had the 2018 WWE SummerSlam, and we're going to talk about some of the results. We'll recap it. Maybe you guys can tell us, maybe you guys want to give us a grade for each match in terms of, the excitement level or or what it really meant to the WWE. We had 4 major title changes and a big time finish, right? So let's start off with this kickoff show match.
Absolutely.
Ken?
So we got the first match that they broadcast was Andrade Cien Almas and his usually manager, but in this case tag team partner Zelina Vega taking on Rusev and his real life wife and sometimes manager-ish person. They used to call them valets.
Right, exactly.
We haven't heard that word for a while. Thank you for whatever you did, by the way, right there. That.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I saw him turn a knob, but now I can hear myself in the microphone.
Okay. Is that all right? You okay?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay. You okay, too?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
good.
And Lana was his tag team partner. So this was, I guess the background to this isn't really as important as what might come out of it, because this was one of the first times that Andrade Cien Almas had a chance to get in front of a huge WWE crowd. He showed up on SmackDown a couple of times, but he's going to be one of those people to watch over the next few years because he's spectacular, and he spent some time in NXT, was NXT champion for a while, and really kind of honed his character and his work in the WWE style. And so this was his big breakout event in terms of a huge WWE pay-per-view. So with the tag team match format that they had, the match itself, you take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think, noting this as his sort of, I don't know if I want to call it a breakout performance, because he's had other performances that are more standout, but just as his big first opportunity.
Right. So this was a long event, the whole SummerSlam, Mark, wasn't it?
It was really long. When you look at the weekly shows, Raw goes 3, SmackDown goes 2, and then with this new format, the pay-per-views, especially SummerSlam, go to 5 hours, and that's a long show.
Yeah, it is a long show, but a good show, right? I mean, these matches, what I read about it was the fact that during these kickoff show matches, people are still coming in, right? It was kind of like a...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll make an admission here that since my show is on Sunday night, I don't get to watch these things live.
Okay.
Which is almost better, because then I get to start watching it when I get home, and I can fast forward through the intermediate parts and just kind of watch most of the matches. And it compresses this 4 or 5 hour monstrosity down into a much more manageable chunk of time.
Right. So, Mark, you have anything on that first kickoff match?
No, I agree 100%. I think Almas is a real talent. I think he's going to shoot to the top here in a short amount of time. Rusev's an interesting character because he's a big guy, he's a bulldozer, and he gets near the top a lot. Like, he just recently had a title match, and now he's opening SummerSlam. So they do this a lot with him. I don't know if he gets in the doghouse or what his issue is, but Rusev and Lana, who's his valet slash wrestler. They opened the show, which is kind of a weird spot for them, but nonetheless, I think it was to showcase Almas for sure.
Yeah, and Rusev's a little bit strange in the fact that he seems to be a drifter, not in the Elias sense, but in the sense that you don't quite know where he lands on the whole spectrum of the real evil guys through the absolute fan favorites. Because a lot of times when somebody flips the switch back and forth, there's a marked event where that takes place.
Correct.
And for him, he's just kind of drifted a little bit one way and a little bit the other way. And I think it's somewhat determined by fan reaction, which he's been getting some really, really good fan reaction with the Rusev Day business lately.
Yeah.
Right.
And so he's kind of drifted over towards being a fan favorite, but he had previously been somebody we were supposed to not like, and there's never really been one milestone event that made us switch from one to the other.
Right.
So hopefully they'll pin that down.
He's got to win, right? To be a fan favorite, at some point you got to start winning. So they got to push. He's got to get pushed into that category, I guess.
Yeah. And he
obviously.
wins a lot, but it's a question of whether he wins legitimately by cheating or having Lana do something sneaky from the outside.
Or having him win on the mid-card matches, and then he gets bumped up and gets squashed. So it's kind of an awkward spot.
See, Ken's got the psychological warfare behind all these matches. I like that. Let's go to the Cruiserweight Championship. Cedric Alexander defeats Drew Gulak. Okay, so who wants to take? You want to take that one, Ken, a little bit?
Sure.
Okay.
Again, this match was between two really spectacular performers. I can't say that it was the best match that I've seen them in, but again, sort of like what the match represents, 205 Live has really come into its own recently. This is sort of an auxiliary show that's on the WWE Network, which features what they call the cruiserweights, 205 pounds and below. And these are the guys that do a lot more of the upside-down acrobatic move sets that can be really, really exciting to watch.
Right.
And so Cedric Alexander has been the champion on that show for quite a while. Drew Gulak is the person who's been campaigning for no flips and no acrobatic stuff. He just wants punches and brawls in 205 Live. And so this was sort of a showdown between the two of them. But again, like the match before, having these guys get their chance, even though it's on the pre-show, but still in front of that huge SummerSlam crowd and immense media attention that surrounds everything, was a really good opportunity for them.
Right. Mark?
I agree 100% with that take on it. I think these guys are great. And it's nice to see that WWE went back to the cruiserweights, because it is an exciting wrestling match when you watch it. You had... back in the day, you had like Lucha Libre and Mexican-style wrestling Saturday morning, and they had this octagonal-shaped ring, and you're like, oh, what is this? And you can't understand the guys, but you watch it because it's really cool.
Yeah.
And then WCW, they started it, and I mean, the likes of Chris Jericho and Dean Malenko and in Psychosis and the Guerreros, they all got started with this. And it was really exciting. But when WWE squashed WCW, that kind of went away. So it's nice to see that with this 205, they're kind of getting back to those roots of the cruiserweights, because it's really an exciting brand of wrestling.
It is. The danger is that they will be kind of pigeonholed into this, like, oh, that person's a 205 person, and hopefully that's not going to prevent some carryover onto the main roster for some of these guys that are the best.
Right, and in this match, we had a referee distraction, right? And we know that never happens, does it, in wrestling? That's the oldest trick in the book, isn't it?
It's unheard of.
Right.
The old referee. I remember when I was a little kid, right? The first time I saw that, I realized life wasn't fair, All right, so let's go to the let's go to the Raw Tag Team Championship. The B Team defeats the Revival through a pinfall to retain the title, Mark, right?
Yeah, the B Team's kind of interesting. These are generational wrestlers on the B Team. Curtis Axel's dad was Kurt Hennig, who's a fantastic wrestler, probably one of the most underrated wrestlers of all time. His tag team partner, Bo Dallas, his father was, IRS. What's his name?
Mike Rotundo, Erwin R. Shyster.
Right, exactly. Whatever incarnation there was of him. So they, in talent-wise, even individually, these guys are really good young wrestlers, and they never really been able to find a spot for them. So they had them with The Miz for a while. He got off The Miz. They're on this B Team. And... hopefully they keep them together for a while and see where this B Team thing goes. I think there's a little something to it. In the Revival, they came from NXT. they're really, really a great tag team, and so we'll see where this goes. I thought they'd give Revival a shot and put the straps on them, but they didn't.
Yeah, hopefully sometime. The Revival are very old school. So, for folks in your age bracket, Bill,
Yeah, thanks. No, it's okay.
you might. Yeah. So, if you remember the Four Horsemen, the old Anderson types of people,
Right.
they're not that. They're smaller than those guys, but it's that style. In
Right.
fact, their slogan is, what is it? No flips, just fists.
Just fists, yeah,
or something like
Yeah,
that. And,
yeah.
But they're really, really good at what they do, and they gel very well as a tag team together.
Right. And then this was the match where we had the distraction. The referee was distracted in this match, I think. I think I got it wrong. I said the last match. So the referee was distracted once again late in the match as Scott Dawson rolled up Axel, right? In this one. So.
And that seems to be a B-team thing, too, where they almost win on accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, B team, because you think of I guess maybe the A team's already been taken, right, or something, so they go to the B team.
Right.
All right, let's go to the Intercontinental Championship. Seth Rollins defeats Dolph Ziggler via pinfall to win the title, Ken, right?
Yeah, this was the opening match on the actual SummerSlam card. And as you kind of browse around reactions, it sometimes falls into what people had called the match of the night.
Yeah.
This was these two guys. I don't know that they've had a lot of matches together, and I don't know that I've seen them put on a stinker. They're generally pretty good. Dolph Ziggler has been holding on to the Intercontinental Championship for a while, generally holding on to it through shady tactics. A guy named Drew McIntyre is sort of his backup, his big muscular hulking shadow that comes with him to the ring, who kind of gets involved sometimes. For this match, Seth Rollins' old tag team partner / Shield partner, Dean Ambrose, had been out for injury for quite a while, and he made a triumphant surprise return on Monday Night Raw right before SummerSlam, and so he was out at ringside on Seth's side to kind of even things out, and so things worked out in Seth's favor during this one.
Yeah. And Mark, on the anything on the Intercontinental Championship?
Oh, it definitely was one of my favorite matches of the night, no doubt. Of these pay-per-views, there's always like a handful of matches you're really looking forward to, and this was definitely one of them. Seth Rollins and Ziggler, they're professionals, and when they go in the ring, as Ken said, they don't usually disappoint, and they put on a fantastic match. And having the guys at ringside was kind of secondary to that, but it was enough to just make it interesting. But it was a great match. Those guys are excellent wrestlers.
Is this the best match of the night, or pretty close to it?
From a purist standpoint, probably so.
Yeah.
From the, if you take in all the extra parts about fan expectations and the appeal of the wrestlers to the general crowd, and just the excitement level, I don't know.
Right.
But just if you're going to show somebody a wrestling match and say this is the heart of what happens,
right,
then definitely it was probably one of the better ones.
So, what's the pomp and circumstance for this event as opposed to WrestleMania? Because drawing reference to other sports, the Super Bowl, for instance, the media hype is just nuts. Is the media hype a little bit less here for SummerSlam, or is it on equal footing with WrestleMania, you think?
It's a little bit less than for WrestleMania. Yeah. I think I call these the two high holy days of the wrestling year: WrestleMania
right.
weekend and SummerSlam. It's like Christmas and Easter. So
yeah.
I guess it depends which one is your favorite. The WrestleMania has more pomp and circumstance. It's also more about getting media attention.
Okay.
So I think, I could be talking out of my hat here, but SummerSlam is the highest profile that's really more for just the core fans.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Than it is drawn to get NBC and ABC and all the media attention surrounding the spectacle of it as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I often refer to it as the halfway to St. Patrick's Day type of event. A lot of times in these SummerSlams, they'll put the belts on certain people because they want them to ride that belt into WrestleMania. So it's about the halfway point. So a lot of times they'll do that, and then they'll start their planning towards WrestleMania in terms of who they're going to have come up with certain rivalries and developing certain characters to do certain things. So
when I look at the dates of these events, I don't know if it's done for this reason, but it seems like the major sports are sort of in a transitional phase, in end of March, April, right? That's WrestleMania. And then this event, baseball season kind of winding down, football season starting up. So I don't know if that goes into when they want to have these things. Obviously, they don't want to schedule them right in the middle of the heart of the end of the football season, or they probably don't want to put them on in the middle of the NCAA basketball. I don't know. I guess I'm showing my ignorance to things here, but I think there might be something there in terms of trying to get as much attention towards it as well.
I don't know either. I mean, I think they've followed the calendar that they established 30 years ago, and they started these. And
WrestleMania has always been at that time of the year, even.
And I don't know. I mean, I think it all like Mark said, it all follows out of WrestleMania, and this is sort of setting the stage for WrestleMania in a lot of cases, and so you need them to be about half a year apart. So I think it all branches out of when WrestleMania is scheduled, and I have no idea what the rationale was for the first. I think WrestleManias have been scheduled relatively consistently.
Yes, they have. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, all the time. Kind of funny. Long time ago, working in a grocery store, pushing carriages. I wanted to see WrestleMania. I had to work. You remember these days where you had to call a 1-800 number to find out the scores of sporting events?
Or am I just that? No, I remember that.
Yeah, we didn't have phones, we didn't have anything, right? So pushing the carriages, and I bring the row of carriages in. I call the 1-800 number, and on it they had who won the first WrestleMania bout, right? So the whole, so I kept waiting and waiting, and then finally I got to, and the guy's like explaining exactly what happened, and I think it was the Hogan. I thought it was the Hogan Andre the Giant match, and I was so upset because I wanted Andre the Giant to win, and didn't happen. Yeah, so I mean that's. But then, going back a long time again, that Andy Kaufman thing was crazy. Mark, do you remember that?
I do, yeah.
Oh, that was... I don't know why I'm bringing all this stuff up, but these memories are going through my head while we're talking. That Andy Kaufman...
It's the 4th anniversary, and anniversaries tend to make you get nostalgic.
Right. Just some good stuff there. I won't waste everybody's time with the Andy Kaufman stuff, but it was crazy. Let's go to SmackDown Tag Team Championship. New Day defeats a great name, the Bludgeon Brothers, via disqualification. That always happens once in a while, too. I always like the disqualification because you really don't know, right, at the end of it, who is really better,
right?
Necessarily. And that's the cool thing about some of these disqualifications. It leaves you with the question mark.
Yeah, exactly. As we found out a few days later, the question mark that this left, we may not get the answer to. It turns out that one of the two Bludgeon brothers, Rowan, was it? Eric Rowan, suffered a bicep injury either before or during the match. Finished the match out with a torn bicep, which tells you something about what these guys do. And so what if they had something planned for these teams together going forward? That's obviously on the table for a while. But yeah, the Bludgeon Brothers is a tag team that's sort of a descendant of another stable, the Wyatt family, from a couple of years ago. Two very large, imposing guys. They come to the ring with big, like, Mjolnir, Thor hammer, big sledgehammer type things. And at the end of this match, they attacked the New Day with their big sledgehammers, and so that's why they were disqualified.
Wow. Yep.
And for months they've been just beating on everyone like that. And to these guys' credits, for big guys, they move fast, and it's when they're in there and they're working, they're really entertaining. And I was hoping at some point there's this team called the Bar, and it's Sheamus and Cesaro, and individually they're world champion caliber wrestlers. So I was hoping we'd get to that point, and I think they probably were going to start moving that way, and now of course that won't happen.
Yeah. And this is sometimes these, like right now, New Day, sometimes these tag teams just get on a roll and they just become fierce and unstoppable. It depends on which one it is, but when they get on a roll, it's like you just sit there and watch all these matches before you get to the big event, and you just know what's going to be happening here usually.
Oh yeah.
But,
I was going to say just an interesting footnote to this. In the New Day, one of the characters is named, one of the performers is named Xavier Woods. And when you delivered your Gutenberg Bible of sports notes to us by email, around page 300, you started, there was like page after page after page of charts of NFL players and positions, and I saw a name, Xavier Woods, in one of those charts.
Yeah.
Probably not the same guy, but I just thought that was a really interesting
probably not the same guy. Although there's been football players, I mean, there has been football players that have been wrestlers, I think, hasn't there?
Big John Studd.
Yeah, I think even George the Animal Steele was a high school football player. Big John Studd played football?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of folks that evolve out of at least college football. I mean, The Rock was a college football. He played.
Oh, that's right. The Rock,
State.
right? Miami
Roman
played
Reigns
for the Hurricanes.
Was a college football player.
Yeah. And then you had, Too Tall Jones was a boxer, or after he stopped
Correct.
playing,
Too
right?
Tall was in a WrestleMania, though.
Right.
I think he was in a Royal Rumble or a Battle Royal match.
Yeah.
And Steve McMichael was a Four Horseman for
Right.
a while.
Oh, he was? Okay. What about the Fridge? Wasn't he in William
think
Perry? I thought he had a special
he-
match once.
Yeah.
He was thrown in there. Yeah. Yeah. So crazy. All right. So let's go to the Money in the Bank briefcase. Ken, why don't you just tell us what that means? Like, what is this match about?
Okay, well,
A little bit of a gimmick to this one,
All
I think, right?
I will tell you what the Money in the Bank is, and then I'll throw it over to Mark to talk about the match, because in my process of fast-forwarding through stuff, I actually missed this match because it
Okay.
was so quick, and I never went back to watch it again. So
Oh,
Mark will
okay.
have to tell you about the match itself. But the Money in the Bank scenario is there is a pay-per-view during the year called, cleverly, Money in the Bank. And I think it's in June. And there's a huge tournament or battle royal, and there's a ladder, and above the ladder is suspended this briefcase hanging from a cable down from the ceiling, and whoever manages to retrieve the briefcase, to climb the ladder and retrieve the briefcase, gets the Money in the Bank briefcase, which contains a contract allowing the person to challenge for any title at any time that they see fit.
Wow.
And so this becomes sort of a plot device in future shows, wondering, is this the time the person's going to run out and cash in this? You know, say the person who's the champion has just had a really, really hard match and they're just exhausted in the ring. Maybe that's when the person with the briefcase is going to run out to take advantage of the situation and try to beat the champion for the title at that time.
Right. Okay, Mark, what do you think?
Well,
Braun Strowman defeats Kevin Owens, right?
if you blinked your eyes, you missed the match. I mean, that's basically how it went.
Wow.
Yeah, they've been building up this, if you want to call it a rivalry, for a short time. And I think Owens pushed him off a ladder once, and that just made him mad. And then Owens was always running around, hiding from him, and hid in a porta potty. And Strowman tipped. I mean, so they always had all these little backstage gimmick things going on, and so it was kind of entertaining. But when this match came out, Owens is a talented enough guy. I think he came from the Hart Dungeon of training, if I remember correctly. And so he's a talented guy, big guy, but talented. And for Strowman to go in and do what he did was impressive. But he's a big, impressive guy anyway. So he went in there, a couple moves, match
It was
over.
over.
It was a couple minutes at most, yeah.
Right. So what happens to Kevin Owens now, you think?
They look for something for him to do, because I think him and Strowman might be done for now, because I think Strowman is on this path to meet up with the new champion. So.
Right.
Kevin Owens is a very versatile performer, so he should, as long as they have something for him,
Right.
whatever he gets into will be
Correct.
pretty good.
Right. Okay, SmackDown Women's Championship, and Charlotte Flair defeated Becky Lynch via a pinfall, and Carmella to win the title. And one thing I'll say about Charlotte Flair, she's a lot better looking than Nature Boy.
That's true.
Okay, I think I can go out on a limb and say that. And this is a high riser, right? Charlotte Flair. I mean, the name says it all. So,
And now she's having been in the WWE for 4 years. She's already a 7-time champion.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
Ric Flair is the record-holding 16-time world champion. So it looks like they're shooting to have Charlotte
Right.
tie, if not
Right.
surpass her dad's record at some point.
is he involved in this with her?
Not currently.
No, but was he there? Was he at SummerSlam? He must have probably been watching it, I would have thought.
Maybe behind the scenes,
Yeah.
but he wasn't.
Yeah. So he wasn't
on
visible to
TV.
the
No,
camera. I'm
not-
surprised because I know.
Not on camera.
Yeah, I'm surprised because I think he, likes the camera a little bit. Obviously,
I think he's had some health issues recently, which
Okay.
have kind of removed him from the camera.
right. Doesn't want to make an appearance, maybe, and have people see him in a light maybe he doesn't want. Right.
True.
So tell us about this match.
Well, this is a match which, when I watched what happened, made me shake my head and ask, what were you guys thinking? do you watch your own shows? Somebody else said that about the creative team. Do you guys watch your own shows? And I thought that was a great line.
Yeah.
So Becky Lynch has been a fan favorite, chasing Carmella, who is the cheating, dastardly, non-deserving women's champion for a while. And the crowd's been pretty solidly behind Becky Lynch. And the trajectory originally was Becky Lynch and Carmella about to go head-to-head. Charlotte kind of snuck in the back door, got involved with a match. The general manager said, okay, now if you win this next match, you'll be added to this card. And so this ended up, she did win that match, and so this ended up being a three-way, what they call a triple threat match for the championship. And so Becky and Charlotte have been friends in the wrestling world, being buddy pals with each other, tag team partners and things like that. But, Becky was a little put off by this. And so at the end of the match, when Charlotte ended up winning the match, that set Becky Lynch off, and she attacked Charlotte, which I think was designed for the crowd to boo Becky Lynch and get behind Charlotte. But the exact opposite happened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it sure did, and I had a feeling that was going to happen, and then it carried over into Tuesday night, which is the SmackDown show that they're on, and Becky Lynch is in the business what you call a face. She's very popular, but she earns it. She's just a great performer, and Charlotte Flair's been both. I mean, she's like her dad. She can go either way. She can play it, and she's great in the ring. So as a match. And even Carmella, she's come a long way from when she first came in to where she's at today. So I'll give her credit for that. But at some point, you figured, okay, they've been building Becky Lynch, building. And then to have what happened happen, like Ken said, was kind of like, that almost doesn't make sense. I thought, okay. But yeah, when Becky Lynch went off on Charlotte, threw her over one of the tables where the guys do the telecast and just beat on her. And then the crowd loved it. And I think
they were chanting for Becky the whole
time.
Right. The whole time. So I think that kind of backfired on them a little. Yeah. So we'll see how the writers handle this.
Right. So the writers. Yeah. Oh, the writers. Okay. But do they shh, and that's what's tell. But do they do these guys, the high ups, I'll call them, right? The people up in the perch, are they looking at the fans? Are they following is there like a lever when the lever goes up with one way, everybody likes something? Does that play into the next thing that happens in the next match, or is it?
Sometimes
like
we were talking about with Rusev, when he was starting to get a really good fan reaction, he sort of drifted over to being allowed to work with that and kind of play along with the crowd and be the smiling guy instead of the scowling guy for a while. But here, and the other high-profile case of this is with Roman Reigns that we can talk about in a bit. They kind of set their own course, and then they just go with it. And a lot of times it doesn't matter what's happening with the crowd reaction. Now, somebody else, I was having a quick conversation about this at Galactic Greg's here in town, because Matthew there likes wrestling, and he had a good point that we got to wait until they get now that the shows are out of Brooklyn, because Brooklyn, like Chicago, is a very, very smart wrestling crowd.
Yes.
And so their reaction to things may be different than when they take the show on the road out into, and with apologies to people in Nebraska, let's just say Omaha, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You don't know that the crowd reaction there, which may be a more casual crowd, it may be totally different.
Right.
So you never can tell until you see how this plays out for a while.
Right. But if you're a wrestler, right, it's better to be on one end of the spectrum, right? It's better to be either a fan favorite, all the way to be a fan favorite, or all the way to be a villain to sustain it, right? I mean, if you're in the middle, you're probably are you in a bad spot, kind of, if you're like in the middle, sort of where you're...
I guess it depends why you're in the middle. If you're in the middle because what you're being presented with places you there, then yeah, that's probably a bad spot. If you're in the middle because despite what's being given to you in terms of a storyline, you're not able to pull it off and the crowd just kind of gets lukewarm on you, that might be bad, but it's for a different reason.
Right.
Yeah, some can pull it off and some can't. I mean,
and that's where I guess that's where you make yourself, right?
Yeah,
if you can start pulling it off, and then
Stone Cold Steve Austin was a perfect example where every time they tried to make him a heel, the crowd chanted louder for him. So he was kind of that anti-hero that was in the middle. So we'll have to see if they do something like that with Becky, or they have to switch things up.
Yeah, I remember when they made Hogan bad, right? They had him dressed in black, and they made him really bad. And I'm like, come on, you're going to make Hulk Hogan bad now? You fooled all of us by doing this, right?
Yeah, and he actually did a good job.
Pulled it off.
Yeah. He looked like he was a member of the Oakland Raiders, didn't he? He was always like dressed in black. He looked like one of those guys that would be sitting in the end zone. What do they call those people over there in the Raider land?
Shoulder pads.
Yeah. He looked like one of them. Okay, so let's go to the WWE Championship. Samoa Joe defeats AJ Styles via disqualification again.
So these two are on the SmackDown brand. So Monday night is Raw, Tuesday night is SmackDown, and they keep the rosters separate.
Right.
So AJ Styles is the king of the hill in SmackDown land, whereas it used to be Brock Lesnar. Now Roman Reigns is the king of the mountain in Raw land. Samoa Joe is a huge, hulking individual. I mean, I don't know that he's that tall, but he's a truck.
Right.
And
right.
He's large, but he's agile and just amazing to see some of the things that he can do in the ring. He's believably somebody you don't want to get on the bad side of. He's been going after AJ, and recently they've been pulling in the AJ Styles family, where Samoa Joe has taken a couple of shots at AJ Styles being a champion and being away from his family too much, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they had a good solid physical match for like 90% of for about 90% of the time that this confrontation was taking place.
Sure.
And then something pretty interesting happened at the end of it. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I'll take that. They're outside the ring, and AJ Styles on the ground. He's beat pretty bad, and Samoa Joe gets up on a table and looks towards the crowd where his wife and child are, and makes this comment about, hey, I told you, your daddy would be home tonight. But he kind of looks over his shoulder, sees him laying on the ground, is like, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen, so I'll be your daddy. And I mean, the crowd really, like you said, you have this intelligent crowd. So when he said that, everybody was like, whoa. And AJ played on that perfectly. I mean, he went off on him, and that was pretty much the match after that. AJ beat on him and then went into the crowd, and things are kind of uncomfortable with, with his wife and everything. And he was bleeding, and there was a comment they probably didn't want aired, but his kid was like, oh, Daddy, you're bleeding. And, like, his child was kind of like maybe slightly upset that,
Right.
And so that was kind of weird, but that went offside. But I think of the way they ended it like that, they're building up for something long term. This is going to be going on for a while. And these two wrestlers came from a wrestling show called TNA, which tried to be a competitor for WWE and got squashed, of course. But these two were their top performers. And so the wrestling crowd a couple of times, TNA. So I'm sure Vince McMahon was probably biting his lip during that. But these two have been wrestling each other for a long time. So it was entertaining.
Great.
And this was an example of a disqualification and a beatdown after a match, which was designed and successful at getting the crowd on the side of the right person. Because
Correct.
The way this played out, AJ Styles, who is the champ, he's the face, the good guy. Under normal circumstances, he'd be cool and controlled, and he wouldn't do this. But he snapped because of this, and so he beat down Samoa Joe. But in this case, he was justified, right? And so the crowd was totally behind this post-match beatdown, whereas in the Becky Lynch Charlotte Flair thing, Becky, in the crowd's eyes, Becky was justified in her beatdown because of what had happened and built up to the match. But to all appearances, it looks like the crowd was supposed to react the other way at that time.
Right. So we also had The Miz, right? The Miz defeated Daniel Bryan in a pinfall, Mark?
Yeah, this was probably like 1A and 1B. The Rollins match was probably the one I was looking forward to, and I was looking forward to this too because, once again, with The Miz and Daniel Bryan, you have two great in-ring performers. The Miz came from nothing. I mean, an MTV show, and from that beginning to where he is today, credit to him. He's really one of the more entertaining, not just even in the ring, which he does a really nice job, but on the mic and with his new TV show and everything. He's a really entertaining guy. And Daniel Bryan, fantastic performer, almost cruiserweight sized. He's a smaller guy, but he's a high flyer, really entertaining. And the match was good. I think these two have put on better matches before, but I think as matches go, it was really entertaining and kind of a surprise. I thought Daniel Bryan was going to get the victory on this one. But they kind of went with The Miz, so I think they've got plans for him going forward, maybe even into WrestleMania.
I think. Well, I think they have to keep the Miz hot because of the reality show Miz and Mrs.
True.
That they're continually
Very
plugging.
true.
Yeah, this was the payoff to a feud that's between these two that's been going on for years, and it's really, really rare that there can be a continuous storyline evolving through wrestling for years and years and years through different shows and different eras, but still stay coherent.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things that the battle between these two started way back. It was like 8 years ago now when Daniel Bryan first appeared on NXT, which is kind of their minor league show, if you want to call it that. And at that time, it was almost a elimination reality show kind of thing where each wrestler had a pro that would mentor them. And so The Miz was Daniel Bryan's mentor, and they butted heads from the get-go. And so they've been going at each other for years. And every once in a while, something will happen to make this blow up again. And the two will get in each other's faces and have something go on for a while. Then it'll kind of subside, and then it'll come back again.
Right.
So with Daniel Bryan having been out for injury for a long time, where he actually had retired for a while, it was looking like there would never actually be a final payoff to this. And I don't even know if this is really the final payoff, but it could be one if it needs to be. So it was nice to see them get that completion.
Mark, it sounds like the Red Sox and the Yankees.
Pretty close.
Or the Bears and the Packers.
Yeah, I can't think of another current rivalry in the WWE that probably is up to that now. So
Finn Balor. Is it Balor? Finn Balor? Did I get that one? Yeah, all right. Defeats Baron Corbin.
Yeah, it was a match.
Right, yeah.
Okay, all right. You want to go to the United States Championship? Nakamura defeats Jeff Hardy.
Sure.
Mark?
Shinsuke Nakamura is he's a really interesting character. A lot of times you get a guy that's a great in-ring performer and he can't do too much else. And then sometimes vice versa. Sometimes they're really entertaining on the mic and they have interesting characters, but it doesn't always hold up in the ring. For Shinsuke, he's that really good in-ring performer, but he's really kind of has this awkward persona, and he's from Japan, so he does have some language barriers. It makes it kind of awkward. Fans cheered him for a while, then they turned him to a heel, so he's kind of a bad guy now. And Jeff Hardy, of course, Hardy's Hardy, and he's been wrestling in the WWE forever. He's always been a fan favorite, and so they're trying to make this, I think, a rivalry to go on for a bit, and I think their styles complement each other. Hardy may or may not have been hurt. He kind of came off the top rope and he did this flip, and he landed on the outside edge of the ring on his back and flipped over. And he's had back issues in the past, so when that move happened, sometimes if things were intended or not. Yeah. That happened, you're kind of like, I don't know if that was supposed to work that way. I don't know if he's feeling really good right now. But Nakamura got the victory, and I don't think this is over yet. This will probably go on for a bit.
Yeah, and even if a move like that is planned, these guys do so much for our entertainment, and you see him do a move which would normally, 6 times out of 10 he's going to miss the move anyway because his opponent will roll out of the way, and he'll land flat on his back from a pretty good height, but in the ring, which is not a pillow by any means, but it's certainly not as hard and unforgiving as the edge, the apron of the ring. So to see him land spine down right on the 90-degree angle of the ring like that, it's like, dude, come on, you don't have to do this.
Right? Yeah, and it's amazing how these guys don't get hurt more often. And the pain medicine must be incredible, huh, after these matches?
I imagine.
Yeah.
I'm going to go off on a tangent real quick here. One of my all-time favorite movies is The Wrestler. I just love that movie.
With Mickey Rourke.
Do you guys enjoy that movie?
I did.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah, that was a great. Yeah, and that movie was basically shot in my backyard too, in New Jersey, and it was that's where it was filmed. And that scene in the A&P, I used to work in the grocery store. And it looked just like I can't confirm this, but it looked just like the grocery store I worked in too when he was cutting cold cuts in that scene.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool stuff. So okay, let's go to Ronda Rousey now. She is now the Raw Women's Championship, defeating Alexis Bliss, and now Ronda Rousey's really starting to make some headway here in the WWE, right?
She is. She hasn't been there for a very long time, and everybody was it was a question mark in terms of would she really fit in? Would she adapt to the style well? Would she be clumsy and awkward? It turns out that she's a natural. She's really, really good at this in terms of what she can do in the ring already with a relatively short training period and acclimation. So they've now made her the women's champion on the this is the Raw brand, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was probably a quicker rise to the top than I would have liked, because she just kind of came in from the outside, and it's like, well, if all these other people have been trying to get that have been here for years have been trying to get
it cheapens
this title,
them a little bit,
and
right?
then she comes in and boop, it's done. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, you understand why.
Yeah.
Why this needed to happen, because of her fame and the publicity that will bring.
Yeah.
In the 2 or 3 high profile matches she's had on pay-per-view, she's been spectacular. So I'm really looking forward to what she does.
Yep. Here I go again, Mark. Maybe like the Nick Foles for the Eagles, right? Just comes out of nowhere and wins the Super Bowl. Ronda Rousey's now a champion.
Right, and to her credit, she's worked really hard at this, you can tell. And there was a little bit of comedy at the beginning of the match where Alexa Bliss didn't want to get in. Now, to Alexa Bliss's credit, she's really tiny, but she's a really, really good performer, and she's good on the mic. She's very solid. And so for her to kind of walk around the ring, and she doesn't want to enter, and Ronda Rousey literally sat Indian style in the middle of the ring, closed her eyes, and was like, come on.
Yeah.
Kind of egging her to come in, and Alexa Bliss came in with like this headlock, and Ronda's eyes opened like, oh man, you are in trouble, and just got her in this arm bar and then the submission hold, and it was over.
Wow. Thoughts on that? On this one here, the match itself.
It was kind of like a couple of others. It was probably quicker than I would have liked, because for the person who was supposed to, even though she, like Carmella and other people, hold on to the title through dastardly means,
right, sure.
A lot of times, she was the champion, and she probably should have put up more of a fight.
Yeah,
but it's Ronda Rousey, right? What are you supposed to do against Ronda Rousey? That's the idea, and I guess. So I'm interested to see where Ronda goes, and the reason I like watching her perform so much is that unless she's a really, really, really good actress, I haven't seen Mile 22 yet, so I can't say for sure. But it's pretty clear that she just loves the moment that she's having when she's coming to the ring and interacting with the crowd.
Yeah.
And I love to see that. I like to the people. The thing that I love watching, I like it when I see echoed back the people that love doing it.
Right. And maybe we'll see Rousey and Flair in WrestleMania 19.
Probably what they're shooting.
Yeah, I would hope so, because I think that would be spectacular.
I think they got to give the first one the Flair and build it up maybe for the next one. Or maybe maybe like a double disqualification or something.
Yeah, and if they both go into the matches as faces, Charlotte would probably channel her dad and do something evil to win the match.
Absolutely.
And then it's all set up, because I think Charlotte will be better as a heel than she will be.
Yeah, that's a good point. Otherwise. Okay, so that leaves us with the Universal Championship. Roman Reigns defeats Brock Lesnar. So Brock Lesnar loses, huh, Mark?
Yeah, and I this is kind of my own personal view on it, but I think a lot of other wrestling fans took this too. It was kind of like, let's just get this over with. It's so in that way it was nice to see. Brock is good, but he's not great. I mean, UFC, that's where he's going. Maybe he stays there, maybe he comes back. I guess we'll see. But he's never there. And I think that's the biggest thing. When you have a champion, even if they're not wrestling every night, they're there, they're stirring the pot, they're moving the storyline.
Right.
And he's never there. And so he comes out with Paul Heyman all the time, who's a legend in the industry. And he's perfect on the microphone. You give him a mic in a storyline and he goes. And so he carried this the whole way. And Roman Reigns, to his credit, even though I think he's got like 4 moves, Roman Reigns, he's there, and he's fighting guys. And so was it his turn? Yeah, but he's kind of one of those middle guys. The WWE, specifically Vince McMahon's really pushing him. He comes from the Rock family tree. So they're really pushing him to be the guy. And the crowd's kind of cool towards it, if not cold in some fashion. You get some kids that are cheering, some women for obvious reasons that are cheering, and the rest of the guys are like, whatever. It's just, we'll cheer for Reigns when he comes out with his Shield pals, but other than that, they're not into it. So it was nice to just see this be over with. And Braun Strowman came out during that match too, and I think they'll get Reigns and Strowman together here in short order.
Right, Ken?
A lot of things in wrestling don't make sense or don't really you can't really see the whole play out until you have hindsight.
Yeah.
Many years ago, Brock Lesnar came in and defeated The Undertaker at WrestleMania, and he was the first person to ever do that. So Undertaker had this infamous streak of he was 21-0, I think, in WrestleManias, and then finally he was defeated, and Brock Lesnar was the one that defeated him. And at the time, Brock Lesnar, he was a known commodity. He'd been around a while. He was known to be big and imposing, but at the time he was, I think like almost all the time, he was sort of seen as a part-timer. And so the initial reaction was, Brock Lesnar? You made Brock Lesnar take the Undertaker streak?
Right.
And everybody was up. Now, several years later, in hindsight, that made perfect sense, because ever since then, with what they've done with Brock Lesnar, he's been unbeatable. Every time when he would show up and have a match,
Right.
he would be unbeatable. Probably like they might make Ronda Rousey for a while. I don't know. And so in hindsight, it's like, yeah, it actually makes sense that Brock Lesnar defeated The Undertaker, because that was the kickoff to his long reign. But like Mark said, it's it probably his reign as champ overstayed its welcome. I think it diminished the championship on the television show because it was not present.
Right.
At least in my mind, because it wasn't present and being defended a lot. So hopefully that'll improve over the next short period of time.
So Ken, where do we go from here now? SummerSlam's over, right? We got 6 months? About 6 months, right? Before WrestleMania.
Well, you'll have, it's 6 months for WrestleMania. You'll have 5 pay-per-views in the meantime, at least, plus special shows. The next one will be Hell in the Cell.
Yes.
I think that's the next one. And so a lot of the fallout from SummerSlam will be leading to that. I don't know why we still call them pay-per-views. It's because we don't have a better name for them. But they aren't really that anymore. They're just network specials. I guess some people still have to buy them on Comcast or whatever, but it's not necessary anymore. But anyway, for the monthly high-profile shows like the Samoa Joe, AJ Styles thing, that will probably end up being having a match in the actual cell, I would imagine, for Hell in a Cell. Or have some other stipulation of brutality associated with it. And maybe a couple of others, like Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy. Randy Orton has been bugging Jeff Hardy, and so now that Jeff Hardy and Shinsuke Nakamura may be kind of separating in terms of their feud for a while, Randy Orton can sneak in, and he and Jeff Hardy have been brutalizing each other for a little bit. So so that will probably pop up at Hell in the Cell. So they're in the meantime, Hell in the Cell is the next big thing.
All right.
Yeah.
Mark?
It's there's so much went on.
Right.
I think they're going to explore this Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair for a while, and they should, because they're great in the ring together. They've fought each other plenty of times, so I think they're going to move this forward. I hope they give Becky her due at some point and let her carry the strap. I see that happening. I don't know about Hell in a Cell, but definitely soon. And we'll see what is going to happen with The Miz. I see them kind of starting to kind of push him towards a world title match as well. So we'll see. Like I said, the SummerSlam really is kind of like the beginning of WrestleMania season, where they start kind of moving certain storylines that way. So
Right. And Ken, you have a couple shout-outs, don't you?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
One thing I wanted to mention is, for those of you that might be interested in following the national wrestling scene, we've talked about the SummerSlam, we talked about 205 Live a little bit, and we mentioned NXT. Definitely check out NXT, because there you get to see some of the up-and-coming WWE stars. They usually have their own pay-per-view, high-profile event the night before the big WWE events, and that's a great show to watch for just for pure wrestling, less of the shenanigans.
Right.
And when there are shenanigans, they're tightly tied to what's supposedly going on. For those of you that are wondering why grown men would like wrestling in the first place, and you want to experience it for yourself, I just wanted to plug a show that's going to be happening tonight in Griffith. There's a group called Backbreaker Wrestling. They're running a card they're calling SummerSlam.
Okay.
And that's going to be tonight at 6 o'clock at the Hildebrandt Hall of the St. Mary's Catholic Church Center out there in Griffith. Some names, if you've listened to the show I do on Sunday night, some of these folks have been guests in the studio. You've heard their names before: Cliff Caviar, Dave Allen, TK Zero, Dakota Prodigy, Austin Fury, the Bambino Family, the Top Guns, and Trog the Caveman will be in the main event.
Right. I like the caviar name. That's a good one.
Yeah, he is the luxurious one. That's his nickname. But this is really family friendly entertainment. It starts at 6 o'clock. It'll probably be done by 8:30, so you can bring the kids. They can be home in time for bed.
Right. It's a Saturday night.
Yeah. So keep them out till 9. It's a treat. Go get ice cream afterwards. But it's a good way to just experience this kind of thing right there. For $10 a person. 20 feet away from you.
Right. Yep. Cool. That's great. And Ken, great having you on again with this. And we're gonna talk about some other things here, but you're more than welcome to sit here and listen and interact with us here and hang around.
I may do that. I will probably have very little to add, but
we'll work you in. We'll work you in. So. We got 5 minutes before our station break, so let's see if we could get some Urban Meyer discussion in here. Now, Mark? We got to just briefly talk about this a little bit, right? Because this is a big story.
Yeah.